Hey guys, Stealth here and welcome back to NavalArt. NavalArt is currently running a public beta of the aircraft carrier mechanics, so that's what we're here to test. How do these aircraft carrier mechanics actually line up? Are they any good? And how do you use them? For starters, this is what it looks like. You have a squadron, and it just makes an attack depending on how you have it set up, what type of weapons you give it, and of course, how you tell it to engage the target. So how do you set all of that up? How do you use the aircraft carrier mechanics? Let's go have a look at that. So how do you use this new aircraft carrier mechanic? It is pretty straightforward. All you need to do to turn a carrier or to turn a ship into a carrier is add a couple of hangars. And you do that in the plane tab. You have the hangar 12 by 6 by 8 or the 24 by 16 by 6. This one has a capacity of 45. This one has a capacity of 10. Does not mean 10 planes, it basically means plane points, because some planes are bigger than others and thus need more capacity. In this ship, that has been provided by the developer as part of the test, if you go to module view, you can see that we have these boxes, if you will. Those are the hangars. So those things get added up, and that's the total capacity of your aircraft carrier. It is that straightforward. It doesn't really contain any complex mechanics. You don't have to build hangars in your own ship and add catapults and the such. You don't have to do any of that. In this case, I have added the hangars, or rather the hangars were added for me, and now I have a couple of different squadrons. I have one fighter squadron with the Zeros. I have a couple of dive bombers in Squadron 2. I have Squadrons 3 and 4, which are torpedo bombers of the Kate type, the B5N. And I have a bunch of, yeah, believe it or not, Grumman TBF Avengers. They're now working with the Japanese to strike anything that I see fit. With all of these squadrons, you have the option to go for a different formation. They all have some different perks. So for example, using the arrow formation makes your squadron a little faster. That might be very nice for fighters. So that's why for fighters, this one is good. Just having either the squadron speed for wedge. Or if you want to do more strafing, you can do that with finger 4. Not sure if that's an actual term, but here we are. For the dive bombers, they have set them up in line 8, which gives them more dive bombing accuracy. You can also set them up as loose, so that you have a slightly better chance of surviving the anti-aircraft capacity from your target. Because your targets, depending on what they are, will not sit idly by. They will shoot your planes down pretty quickly if they get the opportunity to do so. With the torpedo bombers, I'm thinking bombing intervals not that useful. Squadron speed could be useful. Triangle doesn't give you anything, and loose gives you more survivability. So let's go for squadron speed on these. And then on the Kates, I can also go for arrow. But let's say I want to get rid of the Kates. I want to make sure that I can add more aircraft. First, in this squadron, I'm going to just kick these things out. And then you're going to switch to a different view. And you can see that there's a bunch of unassigned aircraft. There's currently no aircraft assigned to the squadron. To unassign aircraft, please add more aircraft to the ship. What I did was just delete the aircraft from the ship altogether. So now, if I go to the tab, I can just have more aircraft added. So this way I can add, for example, let's say the attacker seaplane. Well, it's not strictly what I want. How about a couple of... Do they have... Yeah, they got the Stukas. Why not? They have the Stukas. You can see their space usage is 6. Some of them are going to have more, some of them are going to have less. In this case, I'm going to have Stukas, so I'm going to click just to, well, doesn't really matter so long as you're pretty much within reach of a hangar. And you're going to click, 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 and the game is going to say, oh, now you're full. So I'm going to just place it down. I tried to place it down on the deck, but I actually tried to place it up on one of these antennas, constrictor wires. I'm not really sure what they are. Then, back into airplanes, and now over here in this squadron, I need to tell it what it is, because this is not a torpedo bomber squadron. What I just added was a dive bomber squadron. So I'm going to say this is dive bomber. I'm going to say this is the Stuka group. I think this means yes or okay. And now I can add these guys to this squadron. So now we also have a Stuka group. I'm going to set these up in the bombing accuracy formation. That's pretty much how it works. Once you've done that, you can take this thing to war. When it comes to doing battle, I do recommend going for quick battles at the moment. The reason for that is that battle places you most of the time within direct reach of your target. depending on what you're going for, you might not even be able to get a strike off because your own ship's going to get sunk. So going for something like quick battle, where you actually have this distance selector, that is going to make it a little bit more survivable for you. Let's say we want to take on the IGN Mikasa. Let's take that ship out. The way that this whole thing works reminds me a bit of the World of Warships carrier mechanic pre-rework, for those of you who know what that means. It used to be this RTS type overview. Now, if you're starting with the game, it's going to place you down in the viewer like this, and you press T to go into RTS view. With this, you can now start launching squadrons. So I can send up my squadron, and this is currently my fighter squadron. They're very, very quickly popping up the deck, and their climbing speed is insane at the moment. But hey, if that works, it's fine. What you can also do over here is set whether they are to change their altitude, go to base, and or follow/focus view. So they're now on follow mode. That's why I can see them on the screen all the time. But if you press that again, you're going to actually see them in the third-person view. If you have a squadron as a target, and they're at a different altitude, you need to change your altitude. So if I'm going to press R, R is up, F is down. And you can see this little arrow, and they now got two little blocks next to Squadron 1. This way, they're being maneuvered to a higher altitude. This can be helpful to intercept enemy units. However, if your target is at a different altitude and you're using strafe, that won't actually work. But more on the strafe in a minute. We're first going to attack with the squadron. You can see that there is a takeoff interval for squadron. Looks very placeholdery to me. I think it means that you cannot launch your planes all at the same time. I mean, all your squadrons, which makes sense. But you can send a whole lot of planes into the air. Let's also send out the dive bombers. And now you can see I need to wait another 8 seconds before launching the 4th squadron. You can also use the hotkeys, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Some of these do seem to be a little sticky, if you will. So if I have 1 and 2 selected, or I press 2 and I press 3 and then I press 4, it's going to select both. This can be helpful, but it can also work against you if you're trying to line up units from different angles. When I have my dive bombers come in from the same vector, when I have one squadron come in from over there and one from the bow on, because we're going to try and do a cross drop on Mikasa over here. Poor, unsuspecting Mikasa. Now, the way that this works, you press with you click with your group onto the target, and then you're going to get another selector. How do you want to attack this threat? I want to attack it bow on, so I have the highest chance of actually landing a hit. And the game is going to, well, sort out everything else for you. So now the Stukas are on the way. I don't have to do anything else. They are nicely lined up. I don't have to fly them. I only need to tell them what to do, control the rest of the squadrons, and control my aircraft carrier itself, if it comes to that. Let's also send out the other squadron. These are going to also attack from the bow on. Keep in mind, your target is probably not going to cooperate all the time, and might maneuver. At that point, you can just select your squadron again and go, oh, hold on, my target changed, so I'm going to right-click and just have it on the normal waypoint mode, and then I'm going to click it again and say, this is now your attack vector. In this case, it's not really required, so we can just attack from pretty much the same vector. I'm going to keep the torpedo bombers back for a second, and we're going to follow these guys into the drop. The drop animation is a little basic, but at least you get the gist of what's going on. They're all coming in. Sirens and everything. We're getting some hits, but that was fairly lackluster. Okay, so we got almost no damage on Mikasa there. Let's see if the other squadron is going to do a little better. They have more dive bombers. This was, I think, 7 Stukas versus 9 of these gentlemen. And maybe we can land a better hit here. Yeah, not really. Okay. We did get at least some damage in. So now let's go for the torpedo bombers. Have these guys come in from the side. You're going to try and come in from the other side. And this way, we're going to make it very, very, very difficult for Mikasa to actually land a hit. I do believe that Mikasa over here is a ship that I, at some point... No, I didn't design that one. No. I'm pretty poor at designing, but not quite that poor, I think. So this is probably a ship that was a very early tester. Anyway, here comes the torpedo drop from their starboard side, their port side, and they're going to be wedged in between lines of torpedoes. They're turning to port. Well, tough luck, because you're, whoa, going to get neutralized. Yeah, mission complete. Job done. So how does this work when you're facing another carrier? Well, it becomes a whole different ballgame at that point. It's now going to be carrier versus carrier. This is going to require that I launch my my fighter squadron as quickly as possible, because I really need those to start intercepting the enemy squadrons. 0 seconds, come on, off you go then. So they're instantly jumping off the deck, and the enemy carrier tends to launch their fighter wing first, and then starts to launch the rest. At least that's what they've consistently done so far. What I have found is that if you right-click something, such as the enemy fighter group, that will actually work. Right-clicking an enemy bomber group will not work. So how do you get rid of them? Well, strafing. It's the strafing mechanic that heavily resembles World of Warships. Let's just have these guys go here. Launch that squadron. If you press Q while you have a fighter squadron selected, you're going to get this little overview, and you're going to click, say, just about there. They're pretty much going to go head on to the targets and do a strafing run. But my altitude was wrong. I was doing this from too high. So all of my strafing just missed. At this point, my fighters are empty and they're going to come back to base. So I now have a pretty hefty problem, because I'm going to get attacked by torpedo bomber squadrons and the dive bomber squadron. Maybe I need to start turning into them just to try and survive. My own anti-aircraft guns will try to engage as best they can, but this thing is not particularly survivable in that respect. Let's also launch the other squadron. Yeah, they're taking off, I know. You can see that they're trying to do a cross drop on me. They're trying to come in from the side. So there's a pretty decent chance that I'll not survive this. There they come. They're coming in from about 2 o'clock. I can mostly dodge those. Yeah, that was a bad drop by the enemy carrier. That was complete miss. Okay, the one fighter squadron has already been resupplied. You can see these guys are on 2 blips, if you will, 2 blocks tall. And that is important, because now my fighter squadron can go down a level. Down, not up. Not up. Down, down, down. Come on, boys. Come here. You, go down. My own fighter wing... Oh, sorry, my own attack wings are maneuvering. Go down another level. And now we're at the same altitude, and now I can do a strafing run. Let's follow them in. They're pretty much just going to do a drive-by, just like what you've seen before, and now we're mowing down aircraft. Of course, it's far better to do this when they're coming in, rather than when they're going back home. Although, when they're going back home and you strike them then, that does have the benefit of you not really having to worry about the fact that they might come back around another time. We are getting some direct fire from the enemy carrier. We should also be doing some damage of our own. You can see that their fighters are just loitering right now. I think the fighter mechanic, at least for the AI, is very, very, well, unsophisticated might be the right word. Like, it's not doing anything. You guys are empty. Oh, you guys are not. You can attack. Here comes the Stuka wing as well. And my fighters are landing, I think. It's a little busy over the carrier today. I've probably taken some damage. Yeah, but nothing too bad. Okay, 1 squadron has been resupplied. That enemy carrier is going to have a pretty rough time. Boom. Dead. So the enemy carrier, fairly easy to get destroyed. So long as you're able to strafe or dodge that incoming attack, you should be fine. But what is it going to be like when you have several different aircraft carriers? Well, let's run a test. I'm going to set up the battle in this way. There's 5 enemy aircraft carriers. I have 2 carriers with me and a Cleveland. So the Cleveland hopefully will keep me safe against loads and loads and loads of planes. And maybe use its main guns as well to take out a carrier or 2. The enemy carriers are set up in pretty much the same strike configuration that I have. So they're going to have Stukas just as much as I do. And that means it's going to be a bit of a Stuka fest over here. I'm going to tell my carrier to fall back. We got Alexei, Lewis, and Masao. Let's launch the fighters. I don't care about their fighters at all because they don't seem to be doing much of anything. So, no. Don't want you to land. Squadron 2 launch. I was going to target Alexei on their side. Squadron 2 is taking off. This is going to be absolute mayhem. Oh, their fighters are engaging each other. Oh, they must have sort of right-clicked onto each other, if you will. Okay, I think it's time that we engage this. Because I don't like all of these guys coming at me. I don't like that one bit. Follow view. The enemy carriers do seem to launch all of these birds in a pretty predictable fashion. And that makes them very easy to intercept. And as you can see, they just lost a bunch of their torpedo bombers, some dive bombers, and now my planes are empty. Unfortunate, but we can resupply those fairly quickly. Alright, you're going to move in. And you can see that Lewis over here is potentially having a fairly bad day. I need to be sending out the Stukas as well. Yeah, the sky is blackened with planes over here. Loads and loads and loads of fighters, which are essentially harmless to each other. They're just buzzing around like bees. As opposed to the dive bombers and the torpedo bombers, which are not nearly as harmless. So that is something that I do very much have to look into, because I am coming under fire. Oh, the other carrier has decided to jump in the way. Interesting. Oh, Alexei over here is almost eliminated. Thanks to the torpedo bombers from the other guy. I think they have him. Yeah, they got him. We pretty much double teamed that one carrier, so they're gone. Where is the Cleveland? We appear to be short one aircraft carrier. Wow, we've lost the Cleveland. Okay. That's pretty bad news. These torpedo bombers, I think, are loitering because they cannot go home. So let's see what is actually coming in, because they still have 2 carriers. And they're probably not terribly happy to see me. Which squadrons do I have airborne? I have you airborne. You need to return to base. Squadron 3 can take off. Squadron 2, no. See, that's the sticky thing that I referred to earlier. Sometimes you just have a control that sort of sticks when you don't really want it to. You guys also have torpedoes ready, so you can engage that carrier. You can engage that carrier as well. We're getting some module hits. Excellent. I'm kind of surprised they took out that Cleveland as quick as they did. I have the idea that this guy is empty. Okay, we do have... Yeah, we got threats going towards Alexei over here. The dive bombers here are on a very high altitude, but maybe I can at least get some of these off their tail. Yep, there goes 1, 2, 3. Come on, boys. Get it done. Not bad. Not bad. Got a few. They're still definitely going to be hurting. But maybe just enough to survive. Okay, that aircraft here just dodged. You're going to bomb them. Oh, brother, we got a lot of torpedo bombers coming in. I have a propeller destroyed. So my maneuverability is null. I can't go anywhere, which means I'm dead in the water against a couple of incoming torpedo bombers. This is the end. There is no way that I'm going to recover from this. Oh, God. Look at all that. Boom. Yeah, it was nice while it lasted. And there's more where that came from. Okay. So, that's the end of my little ship. Yeah, there she goes. So, this carrier mechanic. I quite like it. I think it's interesting. It's not entirely polished yet, but that is expected for an open alpha or an open beta. There are no modern planes yet. That's fine. I think the modern planes are going to have a whole different mechanic. It also means that in this mode, your planes are going to be, or sorry, your anti-aircraft guns on your regular ships are going to be a lot more important. Because you're going to require a lot more anti-aircraft firepower in order to keep all these busy bees off of you. So keep that in mind. Keep those anti-aircraft guns loaded, keep them firing. Otherwise, you are now succumbing to the carrier threat. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you found it entertaining. Let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments, and I'll see you soon for more videos.